Hello everyone and welcome, it's Shanna. Now I just did some digging in my stash and found a couple of die sets. I'm actually only going to work with one. I've got the Crafty Tools Etch die set and the Label and Icons set, and I have got the Simple Storage Simple Vintage Flower Shop collection here, and I'm going to grab some pattern paper here and we are going to get to making a card. Now I originally thought I would work with both die sets, but when I got going on with this, I was having so much fun with the one that I just decided to take my time, do what I want, and just use the one die set. So I have picked out actually 4 patterns here. I'm actually just going to go with 3, the 3 that are 12 by 12. I won't use that smaller plaid one there. And I'm going to create a card with all of these little crafty tools here, and it's going to be super fun. Now there is quite a bit of die cutting to be done with it, and I will show you some of it because I think some of it's kind of interesting to see how it goes together, but then I'll cut out the rest of the die cutting because it was a good amount of time die cutting. So I'm going to go with these 3 patterns here. We've got the brown polka dot, the brown and kind of corally, orangey, floral, and then the plaid, and we're going to use it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these tiny, tiny pieces from this 12 by 12. I'm going to create 3 washi tape rolls with these decorative pattern paper here. So we're going to have a plaid, we're going to have the polka dot, and then we're going to have the floral. And all 3 of these are very color coordinated, so they're going to look really nice together. And it's going to be the, basically it's going to be my jumping off point for the card, are these colors. And I'm just going to move along and assemble all of this stuff and pull together colors that are going to match with this, and we're going to have a really neat card. I'm really satisfied with how this card turned out. I think sometimes when you just sit down to play, you have a much better result when you're working toward a deadline or you're just having to crank something out. So that's what I'm doing tonight. Everybody was gone and I just had a little playtime in the house, and so that's what I did. Now I grabbed this piece of brown here thinking I would use it, but then I realized I needed 2 tones of brown. So I've got some Spellbinders cardstock here. I've got a couple of colors of brown, and I knew that they would blend well together, and so I'm just going to pull them in, and we're going to use I'm not going to use the right names. Let me get the names of these cardstocks here. Okay, let's see. I have got truffle and fawn is what I have, I believe. Yes, truffle and fawn. And we're just going to die cut all of the pieces that we need for the washi tape out of these. Now, my color scheme on my washi tape is pretty much the same, and this taupe and brown will go with it. So I'm going to mostly make the base of the washi tape out of the taupe, I should say fawn, and then we'll use the truffle for the shadowed areas and that, and we're going to do it for all 3. I will do a slight little change on the orange one to make it more color coordinated, but you'll see that when it all comes together. So I'm just going to die cut out. We're going to need 3 of these because I'm doing 3 rolls of washi tape, and so this little tiny piece is like the shadow on the inside of the washi tape, and so I'll do 3 of these, and I believe I leave all of the die cutting out for these 3 just so you can kind of see how this washi tape comes together. And I actually won't, the funny thing is I used the pattern paper with the washi strips there to build the whole color scheme and everything, and then I don't die cut those out until the last minute. I forget about them, but I cut the die cutting out so you won't know that. But I just thought it was how ironic that those were the last 3 pieces that I die cut out, and they were my inspiration pieces. But that's just how it works sometimes. I just was on a roll die cutting, and that's how it happened. So here I've got my 3rd roll of tape, and I've got my shadow piece, and then we're just going to do a whole bunch more of die cutting. And I'm just laying my dies aside as I get done with them so that I know that I've used that die and I don't need to use it again. Now this is the top, and I'm going to need 2 of these for the brown colored. It's going to be the top of it, and I'm going to die cut 2 of those out for the brown, and then I'm going to go with a lighter color for that kind of orange peachy patterned paper there for the top of it, and you'll understand why when we go to assemble them. So I did those two because they're predominantly brown, and then I'm going to try and match something out. I actually picked two colors, and I die cut two out, and then later decide which one I'm going to use for it, because we do have light and dark in this plaid paper here, and so I think I wind up die cutting them both out and then later figure out how I'm going to use it. I've got some scraps there left, so I wasn't worried about it. So here we go. Here's my whole mess of a pile of die cutting pieces, and I've got the whole tool set die cut out here, and I thought I would just start with the simplest things to assemble. So we're just going to do our glue bottle, and we'll get it assembled. So this is the label, and I am laying it down on the glue bottle. I believe I used the coral for the label and the Bellini for the bottle. And those are mostly the colors that I use, is the coral and the Bellini. And I think I do bring in, I actually bring in some Sicily, I think, for the base of the card. But anyway, so we're going to get to assembling. So I've got the lid to my glue bottle there, and I'm going to lay it aside, and I've got my washi tape there with my, this is where I'm going back in and die cutting out my washi tape pieces, because I had die cut everything else out, and I didn't do these three pieces, so I'm going back in with those and grabbing those pattern papers and getting those die cut out. And that is, I think, the last for die cutting, apart from our sentiments. We will get some better pressed sentiments in which I'll press some to match, and we'll use that. But we've got all of our bits and pieces here. So this is our paintbrush, and we've got a little metal edge, like you do on your paintbrushes, that kind of hold your bristles in. And I'm going to get them laid down on here, and I'm going to grab my bristles really quick and get them tucked in, and we'll put our metal down and our bristles down. And we're just using the truffle and the Bellini, and then we've got Spellbinders mirrored silver cardstock there for our metal piece. And then we've got the paint dripping that we're going to add to it. And we're just keeping our colors all the same, just so that everything matches beautifully. So I'm thinking next I'm going to assemble my scissors. And so I'm just going to get all my pieces together and get those assembled. Now, one of these has a little die cut image on it. It's going to be on top there. And it's just a little piece like you have on your scissors that connects them together. And so it's going to go on that, and I'm going to find it. It's actually in the die. The die's still laying there. And I got it to pop out there, and we'll just lay it down. Now, sometimes on the mirrored cardstock, it actually has the embossing like the scissors do. Sometimes on the mirrored cardstock, it's hard to get it to glue and stick right away. So I used my little dot runner and put a little bit of tape down there and then added the glue, and that'll help hold it in place. I think I do the same thing when I assemble these scissors together too, just to get them to stick together kind of quickly. Because they have a tendency, that metallic cardstock, they have a tendency to want to kind of wiggle around and not glue where you want them to glue. So we'll get this pressed down on there. We'll get our scissors assembled. Now, I did work with this set one other time on a live, and if you don't watch my lives, you might not have seen me do it. We kind of did kind of the pink and the teal crafty colors, but I think I like this color scheme better. I love how this came together. I think it's just beautiful. Now, I'm going to use my tweezers to pinch that on there. As you see, it just fell off. So we'll pinch that handle together so that it will glue on. And I'm going to put the other handle on. And I've got another set of tweezers, and I will pinch those on there as well. So we'll get some glue on there, and we will pinch that other handle on with these tweezers, and then we can lay them aside to dry while we're working on something else. So now we're going to start assembling our washi tape, and I'm going to put the shadow piece down first, right on the base of the tape roll. And that's, going to be the dark side because it's on the inside of the tape roll. And then you've got a little bit of an edge that's going to go around it, and I'm going to use, first you want to put the thin insert in there. I'm just kind of looking at it. And this is where I used a lighter edge for this one because this is going to go on the peachy one. And so I used the Bellini for this tiny little edge that's going to go around there. It's going to outline that darker brown and then the fawn, the truffle and the fawn. We'll lay that down. And then we're going to put our coral collar down around that. So you've got multiple layers on this washi tape, but it's really cute. I love it. So I'm going to get some glue on here and we'll just get it laid down. And then we'll add our pattern to it. And this is where it comes alive. Isn't that cute? So fun. And you know the top edge of your tape usually is a solid color because it's whatever the edge is. So we'll lay that down on there. And we've got our first roll of washi tape. I think it's super fun. Now we'll just get our other two assembled just similarly. Just layer them all up. Now these are going to be, you know, in the brown tones. So we're going to have the fawn little edge there, and then we'll have the truffle on the top for both browns. I'm just going to lay that aside. That was the extra piece when I was trying to decide what colors I was going to use for that. And I die cut them both out, not knowing what I wanted to use. So we'll get this truffle laid down on here. And then we can add our pattern paper to it, and we'll have another roll of washi tape. And I think I grabbed my polka dot. We'll get it laid down on there. So fun. Love it. Just getting it lined up real well, checking it out. There we go. Super cute. Now we'll get our last roll of our washi tape put together. And I think we'll have, do we have all of our elements? I think we do. Then we can start building our card. Just using that Barely Art glue with a fine tip on there. And that helps when you've got these teeny tiny little pieces. And then we'll add our floral pattern, and we'll have our floral washi tape. And all of our elements just color coordinate beautifully together. Love how it turned out. So what I plan to do is to stack this washi tape. I'm going to do the brown, brown on the bottom, then the peach, and then the brown on top, and just kind of have, be able to have a pop of color. And we've got all of our elements here. And so now we just need to figure out what we're going to do for our card base and get these laid down on here. So off to the side, I've got my card bases, and I've got the pattern paper from the Simple Stories. And so I'm going to look at it and trying to decide what I'm going to use. And I decided to go with the polka dot pattern paper for the base of my card. And so I've kind of got that funky cut on there, so I'm going to trim around it and try and create a panel. The first one, I don't like the way I cut it, so I'll cut another one and get it to where it fits nicer on our card base, and then we'll be good to go. And I think when I line it up, I'm like, oh, I don't think it's quite lined up how I want it. And so I'm just going to give it another go, I think. Yeah, the corner of this actually had like a cutout of it. And so I didn't like that. So I went ahead and cut another one so we'd have a good straight panel with no flaws in it. And then we'll use this one. So sometimes, if at first you don't succeed, you got to try again. So I'm going to get this pattern paper laid down on our A2 size card base. We're going to make it a landscape instead of a portrait because we've got a lot of elements here, and I want to get them all on there and laid down. Just giving it a good press so we don't have any bumps from our glue. Generally with the Barely Art glue, you don't have those bumps, especially when you use the fine tip. Now I'm looking right now at my scraps. What do I have and how could I make this work? I decided not to use the darker because my scissors are going to be laying on top of it and I want some contrast. So I'm just looking at what I got. I want to use this scrap I have here. And so I'm going to figure out how, I like how it looks on there. You've got some contrast. So I'm going to figure out how I can cut this down to use it. And I'll just have to layer, layer, layer because this is going to be smaller than what I need. So I'm going to cut it down to something that is workable. And then we'll bring in some other layers and just layer them up. And then we'll add our elements to our card. Now I'm a little off camera there. I'm kind of below, but you know, I've got my guillotine on my paper and I'm just trying to eyeball and figure out what I can do with it. So I don't need to show you guys how to cut paper. I'm sure y'all know how to do that. Anyway, so I've got my scissors and I've got it in front of me, kind of measuring it, trying to see. And I feel like, you know, I need more. So this is where I'll go digging for some additional layers and we'll do some cutting. I've got another scrap piece of paper here and I'm like, oh, I could work with this. I could frame it out and work with it. So I'm going to measure my panel and then we'll trim this Sicily panel down and we'll layer it up. And then I'll decide that I need yet another layer just to get it where I want it on my card base. So these look really nice and it's gonna match very nicely with what I've chosen. And I just feel like I need another layer. So I'm just gonna bring in a white layer and we'll lay it down as well. So here I go. I've got my white paper. I'm measuring again. I've measured 2 or 3 times, and I should know by then what the measurements are, but it's better to measure twice and cut once, is what they say. So we'll get these layered up. Now we've got some panels to where we'll just have a nice little frame around there and get them laid down. And I will fuss with this first layer, trying to get it lined up evenly. And as Gina K would say, it's better than horrible. Not perfect, but certainly better than horrible. So I'll just put it down and press it down and lift it up and move it and then pick it up and move it again. And eventually we'll get where we want to go. And here we go again. I decided add more glue so that you can wiggle it. That is one of the things about using the fine tip. It's great for the tiny little pieces, but if you need some glue so that you can wiggle, that's not the tip you want to use. So you need to use your larger tip when you need to wiggle. And so these don't wiggle very well, and that's why it's better than horrible. And we'll layer up the other color on there. And I think we've got some beautiful colors together, and we've got a great base to lay all these fun things on. Now, I'll fiddle around with it quite a bit and try to figure out how I want to get it laid down on here. But ultimately, I'll make it all fit, and I really like how it turned out. And I've just got to say, I'm thankful for a quiet evening at home and a little bit of crafting time. It has been very hectic lately with everything that's been going on, and it's nice to just have a little quiet time and be able to have a little play here. So here is where I am trying to figure out how I'm going to lay everything down. And I'm kind of close to where I wind up here, but I will make a small adjustment. But in this fun, I think everything just coordinates beautifully. I'm going to have to get some more of my Spellbinders cardstock because I'm running low on some of these colors that I'm showing here, and I absolutely love them. This is the new Color Wheel cardstock from Spellbinders, and it is simply beautiful. And it's wonderful to work with. Good heavy cardstock, and it just makes for beautiful elements on your card. I'll link everything in the description box below so you can check it out. And if you shop with my links, it certainly is helpful to me. I appreciate it. And if you'd consider giving a like and a subscribe, I would really appreciate that as well. So I've got my 3 washi tapes stacked, and I've decided where I'm going to put my paintbrush is over here by my washi tape. And I'm going to lay it down there just like that. We'll get some glue on there and get it positioned. And then we're going to bring our glue bottle in. I'm trying to kind of go like brown Bellini, brown Bellini, kind of mixing up the colors. And this is how we're going to wind up laying everything down on our card. And then we're going to take some foam tape and pop up our cap to our glue. I thought it'd be more fun to have it off of the glue than on it. And so I'm going to pop it up and lay it down beside there. I thought I did that because I like the etched detail that's on the glue lid, or both the nozzle and the lid. And so if I don't put them on there, I can show both, detail and dimension on the glue. Now for my scissors, I know they're going to hang over my panels, so I'm just going to add a tiny little bit of foam tape on there to help, stabilize them so they don't get bent or, kind of messed up when they're in the mill. So just a little bit on the handles and just a little bit on the tips of my scissors. And then we'll get it laid down there on our panel. Just trying to position it where I want it. I'm going to add some glue to it just to make sure it doesn't come off. And just get those positioned. And I think it looks really, really pretty. Now we just need a sentiment. I'm going to turn the camera off for a minute, and I'm going to go grab some better press plates that are called Ideal Sentiments. And it had handmade for you, made with love, and a whole bunch of other sentiments. And I thought handmade for you was what I wanted to put on here. I thought about made with love, but I thought handmade because these are the tools that we use to make our handmade cards. And so I thought this was the appropriate sentiment to put on this card. And so I'm going to bring in some foam tape, just put a real small piece on there. We're going to be laying across some of our die cut pieces, and I want to make sure it's laid real firm on there. So I'll just get some foam tape on there, and we'll get this laid down on there. And I think it turned out beautiful. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.